Test, test, test.
We are good. The audio is working. Sorry about that, guys. That was my fault. Yeah, if you want to just.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Great. Cool. Okay, thanks, Tim, everyone. Let's see. I'll repost this. Oh, wait, sorry, it's lagging. There we go. Okay. I had the YouTube open and it was, wait, Mike says, okay, we're good. Okay, so everyone, there were some technical difficulties, but we're now going to kick off the consensus layer call 77. And let's see what is going on today. The first thing I wanted to say was just to call out the Arrow Glacier hard fork. So this should go live next Wednesday, and it's important for everyone listening and everyone here to upgrade your ETH1 nodes, especially if you're validating. So I'm sure at least hopefully by now you've heard this many, many times, but very important that we all upgrade. The next big thing would be updates to the consensus layer specs. I was going to call these out really briefly, and then we'll move to Kintsugi. So in terms of the consensus layer specs, we have this new update 116, Inokari. And again, we'll get into the merge stuff in a second, but it brings fork choice updates, definitely including this proposer score boosting, which helps mitigate a reorg attack. So that was really cool to see. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Stanford team at David Zay's lab, because they've been helping with a lot of the fork choice analysis there. And then from here, I think we'll officially transition into the Kintsugi office hours. There's, I think, probably a lot to talk about today. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just briefly touch on the specs, and then we'll talk about DevNets and updates there, and then kind of move into a more open discussion. I think Mikhail had some stuff he wanted to talk about that we can get to in a second. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. Right, so Kintsugi. So important here, we have the version 3 of the specs that were just released. Number of things. Actually, let me post a link in the chat. But essentially, each of these specs are mirroring DevNets that we've been doing. So it's very exciting to see the progress there. There's a link to the spec. And yeah, so with V3, number of things, we updated this notion of a validation error. So that basically, when the execution layer doesn't like a block for some reason, the consensus layer now has a much clearer idea of what's going on, or at least that error is now a lot more expressive. Some minor updates to the EIPs, both for the transition process itself and for how we're handling the randomness opcode. So that's 3675 and 4399. The consensus specs themselves are upgraded to 116 that I just mentioned a minute ago. And then last, we have the engine API that was updated to version 1 alpha 5. So lots of fun stuff there. And we should have a DevNet 3 for next week that's going to target those specs. And we can probably talk about it a bit more in a second. Before we move into DevNets, I did want to say one more shout out to merge testing. Marius has been rallying the troops, so thanks for that. I think there's been a lot of inbound interest for testing, which is super important. And it's, again, just really exciting to see that spin up. Yeah, Zoom claps. Okay, so from here we can move to DevNets. We've had 2 DevNets so far, with a third one planned for next week. DevNet 1, I believe, was broken again by Marius. I think he ran 2 minors. I don't know if you wanted to give a short update as to what happened there, or if anyone here on the call does.
So we already have 3 DevNets, I think. We started with DevNet 0, which was broken pretty quickly. And then we had DevNet 1, which was broken by mining 2 terminal difficult 2 blocks, 2 sister blocks with terminal total difficulty, and half of the consensus layer clients shows 1 block, and the other half shows the other block. And so it was not possible for the execution layer clients to move to the other block. And so I think the way I see it, this is something that the consensus layer clients should take care of, and they also should implement some method to at least manually specify which terminal, like which block hash they want to be the terminal proof of work block, so that we can mitigate these issues more easily.
Right, and I think we'll definitely want to see, test nets with multiple miners, especially as we get closer and closer to the merge. But I think for now, we're just ensuring there's only one miner per transition. Is that right?
Yes, so that's what we did for the third testnet. We had 2 miners running, and I stopped mine right before the transition, so that the transition will not be affected by it. But yeah, we should like definitely talk about this at some point and test this in the future.
Iris, could you
Great.
please repeat the case that you think the terminal block hash will be useful for?
If we if we reached terminal total difficulty on our node, we will the consensus layer node will see, okay, this is the terminal proof of work block, and it will say, okay, please build on top of this terminal proof of work block. And the issue is that it splits the consensus layer into groups. One group that builds on this one block and the other group that builds on the other block. And it is not possible for them, for the consensus layer clients, to switch the chain that they're working on, or at least I don't know if this is like so from what I see, there's no way to tell the consensus layer client, hey, you should be following this chain. And I think that would be the use case for the terminal proof of work hash would be to say, hey, we just merged, and we all agree that this is the hash of the terminal proof of work block. Now I can go to my node that is on a different chain and say, no, please take this terminal proof of work block. Another idea would be to not immediately build on top of the terminal proof of work block, but to wait like a couple of seconds until the execution layer stabilizes on one proof of work block. But I think that's just a hacky solution, and we should definitely create a way for the consensus layer client to pin a certain block hash.
Yeah, but this, I see. So there are 2 terminal proof of work blocks, right? And the first proposer, the proposer of the merge transition block, is about to pick the one, right? And if it's accepted by the network, then everything is okay, and the next block should be built on top of this merge transition block. But if it's not accepted, then the next proposer will try to propose another one merge transition block, and it may use another terminal block as well. So it should not cause any split in the consensus layer network. So I'm just trying to understand why has this happened.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, we may go offline and discuss this.
Yeah. I agree that it should not happen, but it did. So
yes,
something's wrong there. Yeah.
Then I would like to hear from consensus layer implementers what has happened. But yeah, let's better do this offline.
Just
It's
for your
definitely
information
something.
that, sorry, just for your information, that happened on DevNet 0 and the DevNet is still running. So if someone wants to do a post-mortem / figure out what actually happened, I can give you all the details and access if you need it.
Are you sure it was 0? I think it was 1, but we rescued it.
One, we had the issue that there was a get bug, the wrong EIP.
I thought we had no, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
0
it was
was
on 0,
the 2
yes.
minors, 1 was the get bug, and 2 had no issues so far.
Okay, so either way, the intention, I think we all agree, is that reorgs in this sense should be possible. And then, right, you end up with a finalization through the merge, and then that gives you, the one chain. So definitely something we should track down, something we should test, something to keep aware of. And then Perry, you said that DevNet 2 is going well?
Yeah, just to pick up on that thread, DevNet 2 is going well. We hit TTD already 2 days ago, I think. It switched to POS as expected. We have random users making deposits. I've been able to make deposits and get validators active, so everything looks good there. We seem to have a lot of people from the testing effort using the chain now, and so far nothing's broken, so that's a good sign. And I think Teku also joined in proposing and attesting yesterday. So we should have a higher participation rate. So yeah, everything's looking quite good for March DevNet 2.
Quick question: did you change the amount of clients from each team between DevNet 2 and 3?
Yeah, what I've done is Lighthouse gets majority so that we at least would finalize, and everyone else gets equal amount. So I think currently it's 5% each or something like that. I can send you the time splitter.
Cool, thanks.
But I'd like to slowly take that away. Like right now we're getting that security that there's one stable base, but in maybe already in the next DevNet, I won't have a majority client and just do 2 clients that are majority together or something like that.
I also managed to get all 5 consensus layer clients working together with Geth on validating, like on following the chain, and so we're pretty good on that side.
Yeah, I don't see any big blocker in just having everyone run an equal number of validators right now. Like it should work.
Yeah, it's nice to see Teku and Geth has been working well since we got that configuration sorted this morning. I haven't been able to revive Teku Nethermind. Teku is sending an execution payload, which is from the canonical chain and should be valid, and Nethermind keeps saying it's invalid. But I'm not quite sure why. I need to up some logs or something to get the actual response, I guess.
I will take a look on that, Adrian. We can talk about it after the call.
I will probably be asleep after the call. It's midnight here, but if you can take a look during your day, I'll pick up on it in my morning.
Cool. So thanks, everyone. Yeah, and then just looking forward, the intention, and I think Perry is the main driver here. So Perry, hop in if something's changed. But I believe the intention is to have DevNet 3 for next week, which will target version 3 of the specs I mentioned, incorporating the learnings from all the previous test nets. And yeah, maybe we'll change the validator distribution and move closer and closer to Kintsugi. Which, speaking of, that would be the next testnet planned would be the week after on the 14th. And yeah, that one would be this longer standing public testnet, hopefully more stable than the DevNet so far. And yeah, a great opportunity for us to demonstrate merge readiness. So everyone, I'm sure, is looking forward to that. From here, we could do client updates. If anyone from the client's team, sorry, consensus team or execution team wants to give a short update, we could do kind of a round robin thing. There might not be anything beyond what we've discussed previously, so no pressure.
Okay, so never mind, our DevOps team is working on the document which describes how to run different combination of clients with Nethermind. We are cleaning up our code and doing some fixes. We need to investigate issue with Teku, and I think the same is with Nimbus. And we are gonna adjust Nethermind to the new version of Kintsugi spec. In the meantime, we are also testing our MEV plugin with the merge. It will require some fixes from us. And yeah, that is everything from us.
Thanks. And that actually does bring out an important point. Everyone here, like, please document how to run your respective clients on these testnets. Because yeah, the intention with Kintsugi is, I think, to get more community involvement. And so, you know, if you need to go to like a particular branch and like have a, you know, different sort of command line interface and all of this, that's fine. But docs will help that process along.
Yes, I guess that's a point for Lighthouse. Today we had all of our code in a separate Kintsugi branch. Today we merged it down into our unstable branch. In probably like a week or two, we're planning on doing a proper release. So Kintsugi should be into our stable branch. So at the moment, all of the merged code is in unstable, which is a small change.
Great. Any other client updates? Just to give everyone a few seconds, but otherwise we could hop into more open discussion. Mikhail, you had some questions here. Would it be a good time to discuss those?
Sure. If there are no more client updates, we can go through these items quickly.
Sounds like we're good.
Okay, yeah, so the first thing to this proposal to add get block bodies, or better say get payload bodies to engine API. It allows for pruning or offloading transactions from execution payloads on the CL side and request them ad hoc, request them on demand from the execution layer side. It's pretty cheap to do it. Yeah, so the basic idea is to just send a list of block hashes and to execution layer client, and it will respond with a list of transactions in the format which is used by consensus layer to store those transactions. So this is basically the idea. And to utilize this method, consensus layer clients will have to, like when for instance, serving blocks over the network, they will have to get a bunch of blocks, then iterate through all these beacon blocks, grab block hashes from the execution payload structure, send it to the execution layer client, get back with transactions, then like add these transactions to replace the transaction route with the actual transactions in the execution payload structure. and yeah, send this back to the peer, the remote peer that has requested this. These beacon blocks. So that's the idea. And my main question is, like, does this this particular implementation of pruning, does this beneficial for consensus layer clients? If it does, then I will open a PR next week. So if it's not, so it doesn't make sense to do anything. And yes, and also, for instance, Jacek had a concern that if like we use block hashes, then the execution layer will not be able to use some optimizations, like if blocks are stored linearly, so it will be much less intensive in terms of disk accesses to request to query blocks from execution layer by block numbers. So this was one of the concerns which is in the thread. So you can see it, and yeah, why it's proposed to be done this way is because this method in Engine API, the logic is basically very well maps on the existing get block bodies methods in the ETH sub protocol. So if you have any concerns and you don't think that it's beneficial, just chime in and drop and like say this in the discussion thread. Otherwise, I will just open a PR. Yeah, anything to discuss here right now? Probably.
Sorry, I haven't seen the issue, but has there been thought put into what the consensus layer client would do if its EL is offline and blocks are requested over the network? So an RPC request comes in, because that's kind of a new way that you don't have block bodies available anymore and can't service those RPC requests, which would normally get you disconnected and banned.
Right, so it will mean that you don't have blocks that you have been announced, right? Like you have announced that you are at slot. Yeah, see. Yeah, that's.
I mean, you are at fault, so it's not the end of the world. But
right.
I don't know, just.
Yeah, so if your EL is offline, you probably will have more severe issues than this one.
Yeah, that's true. It just means that you're likely to lose peers and possibly get banned for a period, which makes it hard to recover when it comes back. I don't think it's a showstopper though.
Okay. So yeah, any opinions? Yeah, just welcome to this issue. Let's continue there. Okay, the next item is about optimistic sync. The question is, what should not or should validator do when the optimistic sync is in progress? So the particular thing is attest and should validator attest while the optimistic sync is in progress and it's not yet finished. Like imagine the case when the optimistic head, there is the optimistic head and everybody is voting for it, and you can receive and process those attestations, and mock choice rule works well. But you have also the like fully verified head, which is the block from the canonical chain. The most recent block from the canonical chain that you have verified the execution for. And like say optimistic head is 10 blocks after this one. So what to do here? Should the validator attest to fully verified block, or should not attest to it? There are a couple of like related issues to to this problem because there is also an edge case during the transition. But in general, I think that testing in this case shouldn't be done because this fully verified head is biased, is dictated by the optimistic head, the validity of which is not yet proved. So yeah, just wanted to highlight the thing. And let me drop the issue here. Everyone is welcome to comment as well on it. So this is one of the tricky questions. If people have any strong opinion, let's discuss it now here.
It feels like to me, validators should wait until they're fully synced. Otherwise, it kind of opens the door to this almost like lazy validator setting where you're just kind of almost blindly signing and you don't quite know what actually is going on. And it also, yeah, it would let you have a node that isn't fully synced with respect to execution layer. And that's definitely not what we want. So my gut says to forbid this.
Yeah, I think that first of all, it's if the block is fully verified, it might make sense to attest it. It contributes to the Casper FFG votes probably, but in my opinion, it can open some. It can increase an attacking surface. Not sure that any disaster can happen if validators attest to while the optimistic sync is still in progress, but this is definitely a change of the status quo. And yeah, if we do this change, we will need to reason about it. How does it affect the security and liveness, the safety and liveness? So this is my gut. Okay, if nobody wants to share that, let's move to the last one, to the last item. This is the, yeah, I'll drop an issue here. This is the edge case scenario around the transition. And let me just try to give a context on it. So suppose there is the merge transition block appeared in the network, and it signifies some terminal block. So some specific terminal block, and yeah, it's been this transition block has been created and sent to the network, but eventually it has been not accepted by the network participant for some reason. So it hasn't become the head of the chain, and another proposer say that it proposes on top of the parent of this transition block, and like it may propose like a block with an empty payload, which will be like a legal case. So and then yeah, the issue here is that part of the nodes can receive this transition block and switch their fork choice rule to the proof of stake fork choice. So the fork choice rule of execution layer client to the proof of stake fork choice rule. And the question actually, whether do we want to like revert the switch if the next block after the merge transition block is coming with the empty payload. So this is very much of an edge case, and I think that we should not do anything. So once the fork choice rule has switched, it should stay there. The implication of doing nothing in this case is that some proposer picks the terminal proof of work block, and it like kind of dictates this terminal proof of work block by sending this merge transition block, and other nodes that have processed this merge transition block will just say that we'll just set their terminal block to a specific block that has been picked by this proposer. I'm not sure that if this like really clear explanation. So yeah, just go to this issue and probably read the thread and yeah, for a better understanding of the context. And I'm about to close this issue like early next week. If nothing will happen, so it will just stay. The logic will stay as it is now, currently in the spec. Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks for listening to me.
Yeah, thanks. I'll have to look at this specific issue and get caught up to speed. It seems like we don't want to kind of roll back, going from proof of stake to proof of work choice, with I guess the only caveat being if there is a reorg around the transition point. But yeah, I'll take a look, and anyone else who's interested on the call should do the same. Okay, I think that might be everything I had on the list for Kintsugi. Is there anything else anyone else would like to discuss, bring up, talk about while we're here? Anything with DevNets or the longer standing testnet?
Yeah, I'm interested in sort of aspects of actually optimistic sync. And so I've been looking at the current, I don't know, specifications such as they are kind of mix a specific implementation of a goal with various ways of achieving that, or with a specific, or with the goal itself, with a broader goal. So the broader goal of separating the EL from the CL head, you know, granted, the specific optimistic sync homepage and the network of HackMD pages around it discuss a really specific implementation, and the Kintsugi specs are written to mandate that specific implementation. And to give a specific example of what I mean, link here. This is just one of the it gives 8 implementation requirements, of which the first 4 are pretty, I would say, broadly applied to anything that can call itself optimistic sync. The last 4 are really specific to one approach to implementing optimistic sync. This wouldn't be a problem, except that the optimistic sync documents all combine this several aspects: how to implement that specific version approach, what is the sort of an explanatory aspect of what the purpose of optimistic sync is. What is the design space of optimistic sync? Some discussion that was just had about, can you attest based on an optimistic head? What are the useful points in the design space? What is useful or reasonable to require in the spec? And so those are all kind of semi-randomly intermixed. And so what I would like to see, I guess, as an outcome is for some, as moves to being a little bit more finalized, to contribute this back to the merge spec, to the for this to be separated out a little bit more cleanly, so that there's a specification, so that there's an standalone explanatory part. There's what does a spec require in a way that is a little bit more separate or independent of implementation. And sure, if one wants to implement a specific type of optimistic sync, well, what are some hazards one might look for? So that's what I'd like to see.
Okay, yeah, I hear that. That makes sense. I think Paul wrote this document, and I don't think he's here today. But yeah, especially if we upstream this to the Tsugi specs or any further merge specs, we can definitely keep that in mind. And yeah, if you see something in the future, I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated if you see a way to improve it.
All right. And so I have one final point related to this, and to motivate this a little bit, and to like, why should one care potentially about like this, aside from sort of in principle the aesthetics of specifications, is that there's 0.5 in this list that I linked. Add the ability to loudly explode if a finalized block has an invalid execution payload. And elsewhere it talks about this kind of situation requiring a social consensus and the like. Well, that's a specific artifact of that particular sort of optimistic sync, where the chain itself, where you fully import a block. One can talk about an optimistic sync where the fork choice is allowed to run ahead, but the justification and finalization in spec terms is not in the same way. And so just as one example, and that would sidestep the particular hazard there, by it would simply never finalize on those blocks. So couldn't happen. So yeah, that's
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm a little confused because I feel like as you like the fork choice is rooted in finality and then by justification, and so I feel like as you're processing the chain that you receive, you would always see that. But yeah, maybe I just didn't follow what you're saying.
okay. Yeah, sorry, it was not super clear. Then okay, so the notion of having the notion of one can, okay, how to maybe put it this way, one can imagine an optimistic sync implementation which does not ever fully trust in its most, that only in some sense fully finalizes in the sense that it's willing to, that ever would have to be rolled back or could ever interfere a verified block. If I'm not saying this well, I'll reconsider and how to articulate this, but at another point. But essentially, this assumes that you kind of mix kind of fully trusted and not fully trusted blocks, and that the client really commits in any real way to not fully, let's say, call it verified blocks. And there's no strong reason for that to happen that I can tell.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to keep chatting, but perhaps we should take it offline, just to respect everyone's time here.
Yep.
And yeah, but definitely, I think I think we all strive for aesthetics and specs. I do think aesthetics are important. And yeah, if we can refine this and separate the layers more cleanly, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Sounds
I would
good.
like also to add that the work on the optimistic sync spec is in progress. So it should be like the minimal set of requirements for CL to adhere to do it in a safe way. So it's basically gonna be based on the ideas from this document that you have, that Dustin has just shared. It is written by Paul.
Great. Xiaowei, I saw you have a link here to talk about issue, where did it go? 4:30 on PM. Okay. So,
Yes.
right, if we want a B star name, should we open up this conversation right now?
Yes. So let me send you the link to follow up our previous discussions about.
Sorry. I have one quick topic before we go back chatting about naming the merge. If that's all right.
Sure. Yeah. Is that okay, Xiaowei?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Sorry. One thing that I noticed is right now when I switch between clients, with the same consensus layer, with the same execution layer, all the clients actually try to import all the blocks again. And I think that's something that will change with optimistic sync. I just want to make sure that that if you guys build optimistic sync, you should also test just not only optimistic syncing from like the beginning, but also from like an existing. So you shut down your node and you rerun the same execution, the same consensus layer client after 1 hour or something, and also you have a pair execution layer consensus layer clients. You shut down the consensus layer client, and you start up a different consensus layer client. And I think that should be something that that we should really look at to make sure that this use case is sufficiently supported.
Marius, by the way, I think it's fine because the consensus layer client doesn't know the state of the execution layer client. Like if it's closer to the head of the chain, the execution layer client, the consensus layer client, while consensus layer client is not, so it will just keep syncing and sending all the same blocks. If this is the case you have described, so I think it's okay.
The problem is that like if you import, I don't know, like a day worth of blocks, that is like, I don't know, 50 minutes of replaying blocks.
Yeah, but because the execution layer client will just quickly respond with just quickly respond with valid if the block has been verified before and it's valid, or will it execute it once again?
Right now, I think we executed again.
I see.
And I'm pretty sure there was something why we did this. I can't quite get it. I think it's because you have like different blocks with the same state root. But we could just cache the number to hash in the database and see if we already have this block at this block height, and then not execute it.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's pretty sounds complicated. Anyway, this client doing this if it does not have the same head, like if it's behind the L, I think it's fine. And okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so Marius, Proto just pasted in the chat that some CL clients don't persist the unfinalized part of the chain, so you could be seeing that.
Yeah, but what I saw was more. It was more than the last four blocks. It was more like, I don't know, since I like shut down the node and then.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And I assume that there's some way in Engine API to communicate this, or there will be eventually, right?
I'm not sure. What do you mean?
Oh, just how to communicate to the CL, like what the state of things is.
The CL can always ask for if get current block or something to see what our current head is. But like it cannot do that for non-canonical blocks. So for example, if we start syncing, we just shove the blocks into the database and don't actually set the head, and so they are not non-canonical. Once we get the thing from the set head from the consensus layer, the function is updated from the consensus layer, we actually set the head. and have the state for that then. Well, it doesn't matter. I think it's all right.
Okay, well, yeah, either way, sounds like something to keep track of. Okay, I guess I'll ask then if we want to move to any other client updates or final updates, and then yeah, we could jump back into the naming of the fork if no one has anything else.
So it's not the client updates, it's a consensus spec updates. So there's a fix to the proposer boost score, and it was here. That so there was a bug that in the calculation of the proposer boost score, and thanks to, I think it was Shine from Lighthouse, they found this bug, and we will include this, we will address this issue in the next release, next consensus spec release. Yeah.
Great, so yeah, that'll be important for everyone to keep track of, but it sounds like it won't be deployed for some time. Anyone else have any other updates?
This is not an update, but just mention that we would like to continue increasing the number of metrics that are standard across our clients. So we started with 8 metrics, and most of them are already implemented in our clients, although there are a couple of them missing, but we're going to move on with the next set. So we will be communicating with you guys to continue this standardization effort. Okay.
Great, thanks, Leo. Anyone else?
I have just a quick shout out, but next week we're gonna have an MEV call with regards to basically how to implement that on the consensus layer clients. The Flashbots team has been working with Lighthouse to get it set up. And so, yeah, basically we're just gonna have a breakout room call where we go over kind of the spec and what's been implemented so far, and get feedback from the other consensus layer teams. It's a week from now at 20 UTC to accommodate Australian time zones a bit better, a bit late for Europe, apologies. But yeah, it would just be great to have representatives from the different CL teams at that call. And I posted the link in the chat.
Great, thanks, Tim. Yeah, everyone, please try to send a representative from your client if possible. I think it's all, well, yeah, I would hope we all agree it's very important that we treat this MEV issue very carefully. And a lot of the work that Flashbots has been doing, you know, is going down this path for the merge. So definitely important to attend if you can.
And on a similar note, I have a couple of announcements related to PFNE. With this merge testnet, we are planning to organize a P with Paritosh and Proto on December 15th at 18:30 UTC, in which I'm assuming that they would be explaining about merge testnet setup. So that's one for people who are interested to participate in this merge testnet. And the another one is with Mikhail Kalanin on December 21 at 1400 UTC. That is for AP 4399 supplant difficulty of code with random. So if people are interested, anyone, any doubt, please feel free to join us. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Pooja. Yeah, those should both be very exciting. And then just to call it out, Trent posted a link to the Merge community call tomorrow, 1400 UTC. So a lot going on. Everyone has lots of calls. You know, you can see we're all getting very ready for the merge. Okay, final call, and then we'll jump into naming. Shelly, do you want to take over?
Yes. Thanks, Alex. And so repost the issue again on the chat. So just to follow up with our previous discussions about the naming for the merge hard fork, I open these issues to propose what we can do for the next steps. So I think the rough consensus we have is that like we are going to name CL upgrades with the star names things, and it's still a bit uncertain about if the EL client updates will go with the city names or star names or maybe others. But so this proposal is that if we can at least choose one starting with B, since the last upgrades it was Altair, so this time we start with B. So the action proposal is that maybe we can start to nominate some star names candidates in this thread, and then the deadline will be like December 13th. It's just for example, then we can choose the top 4 popular names, and then if we want to have more involvement from community, we can have another pop vote election that we had one for the Altair naming election that last time. Or option 2 is that if we want to make decision as soon as possible, then maybe we can have another discussion in the call 2 weeks later. It will be December 16th. So this is my proposal. Any feedback, suggestion, also opinions, and we'll come to mention now. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so I wish we can maybe have some decision about number 1, if we are going to vote, we are going to propose with B-Star for client for the CL clients. And number 2 is that how will the election, what will be the format of the election? Like we just discussed in the next call, or go community vote. Yeah, 2 things I wish we can discuss today. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think what you outlined makes a lot of sense. Personally, I would say, yeah, we can collect ideas in this thread and the issue that you posted, and yeah, either it'll be obvious which is the most popular, or we can decide again. Well, we'll decide for the first time, but on the next, well, let's see how this is the next, maybe the CL call 2 weeks from now.
Either that, or we can maybe, if it does feel like we need a call to discuss, maybe you have like a separate breakout room to not take up half these calls with it, and also to just like be
Right.
more inviting to folks who might not join like these calls. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion, but I think if we do need an hour to discuss, just like trying to isolate it and having like a special purpose call might make sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would hope that we can do most of the back and forth asynchronous.
Agreed.
So perhaps to get started, maybe we'll just start in the issue, and we can just sort of coordinate asynchronously. If it looks like there's a bunch of contention and we need a call for that, then I'm happy to organize one. And yeah, I think the breakout format makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree that think that the breakout room ideas make sense.
Okay. Any final or closing thoughts? Anything anyone has been dying to bring up and hasn't yet? Otherwise, we can go ahead and wrap up early.
Thanks, Alex, for running this.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. We'll call it then.
Thanks,
See everyone.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.